England have launched an investigation into claims that their 4-day trip to the holiday resort of Nusa between the second and third Ashes tests turned into a beer-drinking stag do. Whose stag do was it? That's the big question. Drinking excessive amounts of alcohol for an international cricket team is not something I'd expect to see at any stage, says Rob Key, the England director of cricket. If they're drinking lots and if it's a stag do, all that type of stuff, that's completely unacceptable. I have no issue with the Nusa trip. If it was to get away and just throw your phone away, down tools and go to the beach, we added security. We've got enough ways of finding out exactly what happened. Let's speak to Andrew Miller, who is the UK editor of the ESPNCricinfo website. We spoke to him on Sunday on Game Day Live, and there's been big developments since then. Hi, Andrew.
Hi there. Yes, some developments everywhere in this shambles of a tour, unfortunately.
Indeed. Whose stag do was it, and how serious would it be if these reports turn out to be true?
Well, I don't think so much of a stag do as a wake for the Ashes, but it's a shambles. But I don't know what they really expected. You send a lot of athletic 20-somethings off to a beach bar for 4 days and expect them just to play tiddlywinks on the sand. I'm not sure that was ever going to be particularly likely, particularly in the circumstances of the series, 2-0 down, a chance to recharge the batteries maybe, but. Yeah, it looked like a hiding to nothing. The optics, even before the rumours, and there are more than just rumours actually coming out of England's antics. The optics were terrible. I don't know what part of them thought that it would look like a good idea to have England just sitting around in beach bars for 4 days with the Aussie media hounding them at every opportunity, looking for an angle and clearly finding one.
But Andrew, is it not fair to say that the representation of England in the third test was probably slightly better than in the first and second?
Yes, I think it probably was, but I also think that's probably a case of them actually getting a few games under their belt, a chance to get used to the conditions. I don't object to England going into the Ashes with a plan. They went into it with this with the mind first idea that they could get their heads right and the rest would follow. The trouble is their heads clearly weren't right in those first 2 tests, and therefore once they get to this opportunity to defuse a bit in the mid-series, the idea was England would be either competitive or leading the series, and this would be a chance to chill out and go hard into the Christmas period. What it's turned into, of course, is a bit of a wake for those first 2 games, and
but the optics of things are. I don't like optics being the way that you judge people, because ultimately the way the media judges things is not necessarily the way things are. But insofar as Brendan McCullum is concerned, you've got Rob Key on one hand saying that he intends to continue supporting him as long as he's in the position to do so. You've got a judgment call here, which clearly is under McCullum's brief. If the players have gone and decompressed in this way, and I'm not here to judge the rights and wrongs of it, I find it difficult to contest, having owned a professional football club, that it's of any use to people to go out on benders if they're professional athletes. You wouldn't see tennis players do it. You wouldn't see athletes doing it. So I don't see why footballers or cricketers need to do it. But is this situation now for Rob Key a challenging one, given the fact that he appears to support Brendan McCullum? If the optics are a concern for people, isn't Brendan McCullum's judgment of in a situation where it's now very questionable?
Well, yes. I completely hear what you're saying about optics. They shouldn't be important, but unfortunately they are, and particularly, I'm afraid, in this series when England arrived to media barrage. I don't think they were quite aware of quite how intense Australia's scrutiny would be on this team. I think most of them are first-time tourists, so there are only 5 of them have been on the Ashes tours before, and 3 of them were very minor parts in the last tour. So I don't think they expected it to be quite this intense. And I don't think England actually expected their team to be quite so lax. I think, we were talking on Sunday about the way that this culture has disintegrated. And a lot of the reason why England went into this Bazball era was they had a core of really senior players who knew how to do the basics. You had James Anderson and Stuart Broad, who've been around since the dawn of time. Senior players who knew how to behave, knew what the limits were, knew how to be professional and just get their job done, but also knew when to let their hair down. I think if you let a bunch of, not kids, but 20-somethings who are in a losing cause on their first tour, a little bit out of their comfort zone, I think, for the first time in this Bazball era, because a lot of the safety net had been lost by that stage. Ben Stokes had already teed off about his team being weak, which is an extraordinary statement from the captain, given everything he's done before. Everything about that suggested that this trip would be a disaster, and it looked like a disaster. I mean, apart from anything else, it just looked like forced fun. I mean, I don't know about you, but Nusa is my idea of hell. Give me 4 days to decompress after two losing matches. I'd find a dog and walk up a hill and disappear for 4 days. I would not want to be sitting on a beach and being expected to have chummy time with my teammates when actually I might just want to get my own headspace, frankly.
But actually, you know, the narrative, and Simon talks about the optics, the narrative is all going to be now about the stag do that they went on, and this was the reason why the Ashes collapsed. They'd already collapsed well before that. And as Simon said, the second day of the first test was a massive indicator that problems were going to be just around the corner. But the real issue here is the preparation, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Very much so. I mean, but only in hindsight. And again, this is the problem we've got all along with this tour. England's plan was to go in there with minimal preparation, but an expectation of minimal standards of professionalism, based on the fact that Ben Stokes is a solid professional, Joe Root, model professional, England's leading run scorer, and again based on the precedent set by the previous era of this team, who were all senior pros who got torched on the last Ashes tour and vowed we're not going to do that again. We're not going to get hung up in the minutiae of trying to do the right thing. Let's just get our heads right and the rest will follow. England's heads were not right. The rest has not followed. And therefore, yes, the preparation was wrong. But equally, England's response to that preparation was wrong. Brendan McCullum admitted himself after the second test when he said we trained too hard. It sounded a dumb statement to say in the circumstances, but I kind of understood what he meant. They changed tack too quickly, and therefore players were, from 1 minute, being told to relax, just relax into the series. Now train really hard, and now go off to Nusa and live it up for a bit. I mean, what's the messaging here? No one seemed to get a grip of the messaging, and you know, it's not the first time England have gone off the rails. It's not the first time drinking cultures have come to light on an Ashes tour. There was an infamous incident on the 2017 tour when yes. Ben Duckett tipped a pint over James Anderson's head, and funnily enough, Ben Duckett appears to be back in the centre of things. There's a video doing the rounds that appears to be a little bit incriminating, let's say, and the ECB
unverified at this moment in time.
Indeed, the ECB, however, have issued a statement saying we are aware of content circulating on social media, so they are acknowledging that there is something out there that could be a little bit damning for their team. And therefore, you know, again, it's just a matter of the messaging not being right from up top, I fear.